Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasa Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. We will continue our reading on the third canto, third chapter from 21st shloka onwards. Imam lokam amum chaiva ramayan sutaram yadun reme kshana shanadaya datta kshanastri kshana sauhrudaha. The Lord enjoyed his pastimes both in this world and in other worlds, higher that is the higher planets, specifically in association of the Edu dynasty. At leisure hours offered by night, he enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love with women. Purport: The Lord enjoyed in this world with his pure devotees. Although he is the personality of Godhead and is transcendental to all material attachment, he nevertheless exhibited much attachment for his pure devotees on the earth, as well as for the demigods who engage in his service in the heavenly planets as powerful delegated directors in the management of material activities. He displayed special attachment for his family members, the Yadus, as well as for his 16,000 wives who had the opportunity to meet him in the leisure hours of night. All these attachments of the Lord are manifestations of his internal potency, of which the external potency is only a shadow representation. Right? So this is very important. Now when we hear about the Lord's activities, especially his dealings with his personal family members, so we should understand that these are all not of the material nature. This is completely of spiritual nature. So Lord doesn't have anything to do with the people who are not his devotees. So everything that he is exchanging with, his reciprocations are all with his intimate devotees, right? And then it is nothing to do with the external potency. And it is nicely mentioned, all these things are happening on the internal potency or on the spiritual potency. So they are all spiritual activities, what is happening here. And then external potency or external energy is just the shadow of the spiritual energy. So external energy, what we are seeing here as intimate relationships and friendships and things like that, all these things are just a reflection of the original spiritual entities, which are pure in nature. So when it is reflected in the material nature, it is a reflection of the spiritual activities, and it is not pure in its nature, right? So here what we are studying about the Lord, it's all pure relationships. Okay. In the Skanda Purana, Kanda, in the topics between Lord Shiva and Gauri, the manifestation of internal potencies is confirmed. There is a mention of Lord's meeting the 16,000 cowherd damsels, although he is Hamsa, transcendental super soul, and maintainer of all living entities. The 16,000 cowherd damsels are a display of 16 varieties of internal potencies. This will be more elaborately explained in the 10th canto. It is said that Lord Krishna is just like the moon, and the damsels are part of his internal potencies, are like the stars around the moon. Right? So anyway, so these intimate connections that Krishna had with his wives and also with the gopis, so that's all a subject of very deep, like um deep spiritual, topics, and it cannot just be discussed in the beginning stages. So it requires purification of heart, and it requires purification of one's consciousness. So that is when somebody can get into such topics. So basically, the material world, what has been imitated in this kind of uh, uh, or what we can actually see parallel to that in the material world, is just a mere reflection, and it is perverted reflection. That means it is 180-degree opposite. So it is not pure, it is completely impure. Okay, text 22. Tasyaivam Rama Ramamanasya Samvatsara Ganan Bahun Grahamedeshu Yogeshu Viraga Samajayata. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. Okay, purport. Even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as the universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years just to teach others how one should live in householder life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the word samajayata means fully exhibited. In all his activities while present on earth, the Lord exhibited detachment. This was fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. One should naturally develop detachment as a matter of course. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, the transcendental cowherd damsels, but the Lord desired to end his so called attachment to the three modes of material nature. He can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmini and other goddess of fortune, as described in Brahma Samhita, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam. So here we see that there is two layers of the Lord's pastimes. So one is the internal and another is the external. So internally, what is happening is the Lord is reciprocating with his intimate devotees, and this thing is like spiritual completely. And then the same thing, he is acting in such a way that common people who are completely material in their consciousness, so they can also take lessons from the whole activities that the Lord is doing. So many other times, the spiritual activities which are completely spiritual in nature may not tally with the material moral principles. No, that's a point to be noted. So the spiritual activities sometimes may not tally with the material moral principles. Like for example, Krishna's relationship with the gopis. No, that may not tally with the material moral principles. No, the material world, the rules and regulations that are there. So that is not to be imitated. That is completely the spiritual activity which is done by which is happening between the Lord and his intimate devotees. So there is nothing to nothing to emulate, in the material life of people. But then Krishna's Leela and Dwaraka. So this has two layers. One is the layer of Krishna's internal potency, that is Krishna's dealings with all this Rukmini and other goddesses of fortune. That's like all of them are Lakshmijis in one sense. So their relationship is not like a mundane material relationships, But then here the Lord is renouncing that also. Why he is renouncing that? Just to show an example for people in general of this world. People in general, they cannot just live in the household life till the end of their life. Srila Prabhupada very nicely mentions this, the main purpose of the institution of marriage is that to regulate one's desire for enjoyment with the opposite sex. Otherwise, unregulated, this one, it will be a chaotic situation in the society. So basically, this is Prabhupada often quotes this sloka. Loke vyavaya mishamadya seva nityahi jantur nahi chatra chodana vyavastitisteshu vivaha yagya suraganer asya nivrata ishta. So in this it says that loke, people in general, Gavaya, that is, they are attached to the sex life. Amisha, that is, they are attached to meat eating. And then Madhya Seva, they are attached to drinking, like intoxicants, right? So these things are common in people, and just to regulate them, the religious principles have given various things. So just to regulate the sex life, the religious principles have given the marriage life, and in that, the people have to follow the rules and regulations of the married life. And then there is amisha, there is this meat eating. No, for that also there is regulation. If at all somebody wants, no, there is so much strict regulation that is there, and they have to even offer prayers and mantras in such a way that the killed animal, they have to chant the prayer in the ear of the killed animal to be killed, saying that in this life, for my present pleasure, I am killing you, in next life you can kill me. So anybody who's doing that again and again, he'll feel that, no, what kind of promise I'm giving promise to so many animals that you can kill me in the future lives, right? So that's a very horrible promise to give. And in this way, like all that thing, what the common people are so much addicted to, the Vedic principles offer a regulation, and in this way, to like gradually finish that that desire in the person's heart. So here we see that Krishna is also, like in his Dwaraka Leela, he is showing himself that how he renounces his so-called family life. Actually, it was not a so-called family life. It is actually a the Lord and his intimate devotees are having their relationships, and that is never to come to an end. It will continue in the spiritual world, but then here, materially speaking, the material people. So all of us, we should develop this detachment over a period of time, right? So there's two layers of Lord's pastimes. One is internal and another is external. Internal is the reality of Lord's relationship with his devotees, and external is just to set an example for people in general, what they are supposed to do, right? So these are the two things that Lord actually demonstrates there. And text 23, Daivadhineshu kameshu daivadhina swayam puman ko vishram beta yogena yogeshwaram anuvratah. Anuvratah. Translation: every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of the supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. Right? So this we can see that every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force. Yeah. So Daivi Esha Gunamayi, like without the control of material nature, Prakrite Kriyamanani, and so many places, like we see that we are all under the control of supernatural force. And thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of the supernatural force. So we cannot just enjoy the sense gratification without the sanction of the Supreme Lord or without the sanction of the material nature, right? So no one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities. No, it is very difficult for people to put faith on the Lord's transcendental sense activities. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, it is very, very abstract sense. It is given, Bhoktaram Yajnatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The Supreme Lord is a Bhokta. He is the enjoyer. If we get on to the description of how all Krishna enjoys, then the people of this world will become envious of him and say, like, why Krishna has to enjoy this in all these ways. Actually speaking, he is the only enjoyer. He is supposed to enjoy. And common people cannot put faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities. That's mentioned here. So, but who can put the faith on Krishna's transcendental sense activities? One who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. So only a devotee can comprehend how Lord Krishna can actually have such enjoyment, because he is the actual enjoyer, Bhokta. We are not Bhokta. We are to be enjoyed by Krishna. Right now we are trying to imitate Krishna, and imitation has gone to such an extent, it has become a competition. Why Krishna has to enjoy, I will enjoy. It has become like that. So that's the sad state of current affairs. Okay. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, and demigods within the purview of material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called Prakriti or Daivi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. So, like, we are all forced by the material nature, and we are doing our sense gratification under the material nature's purview, under the control of material nature. But when the Lord does, it is not something like this. It is called as Leela. Leela means it is not dependent on any supernatural force. He is the ultimate decision maker, and he takes no. It is all his personal choice, executed through his internal potency, and not executed by the Prakriti or material nature. Right. So this is very, very important thing to know. And it is mentioned, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tattva deham punarjanma naiti. No, it is like if somebody can understand Krishna's dealings in these matters in a proper way, he is going back to the spiritual world. No, Janma karma cha me divyam. So this is divyam. It is transcendental. It is like completely spiritual in nature, right? So they cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent. That is, without any sense, he can, with any sense, he can perform the activities of other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing, and can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. No, tad ikshata, like that is one of the Vedanta sutras, or no, one of the important statements in the Vedic literatures. So tad aikshatas, no, I think so. It means that when he saw, no, when he saw, when he glanced over this material nature, this material nature became impregnated with all the living entities, who are all the conditioned living entities who are to get the bodies, right? So who are to get the bodies in this material world. So how did the Lord put in the womb of the material nature, all the living entities, just by seeing, so that's what is mentioned here. He can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. He can impregnate the material nature with all of us, all the living entities. No, he just Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, aham bija pratapita, right? So I am the seed giving father of all the living entities. So how is that? Because he has he has put all of us into the womb of material nature, and the material nature is creating further bodies, for all of us. So the first impregnation that has happened is by the Lord's glancing over the material nature. So that's what is mentioned here. The Lord can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entities, the controlled living entity cannot even dream such sense activities in his conditional life, right? So Lord's activities, how he is doing, we cannot even imagine, what is the way that he is actually conducting himself. But simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand the Lord and his activities are transcendental. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah. So by devotion, Bhaktya, mam means Krishna is telling about himself, Bhaktya mam. So one who's with devotion, he is approaching me, abhijanati. No, he can understand me. Yavan yachasmi tattvataha. He can understand me in full, in tattva, in full clarity. We can understand about the Supreme Lord. So one cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. With contaminated senses, we cannot understand the Lord, right? Text 24. Puryam kadachit kridadbir yadu bhoja kumarakai kopitha munayas shepur bhagavan matako vidah. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of Yadu and Bhoja dynasties, and thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. So this all of us know that know the all the Yadu boys, they were Krishna's sons. They were actually playing around, and then they had some pranks. They made some prank on the sages who were there, and they dressed up Samba, one of the son of Krishna, just like a pregnant woman. And then all of them, they went to the sages and they asked, no, this lady is pregnant, and can you say like what is to be born from her womb? So then the sages knew these boys are making some pranks. So they told, no, whatever it may be born from the womb of this lady, it will be the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. That will be the cause of destruction for the Yadu dynasty. So then all these boys, they beg pardon, saying like, we did a big mistake. And then in fact, whatever they were imitating to be a pregnant woman, that Samba, he actually gave birth to a iron rump of an iron, and that was immediately presented to Ugrasen, the king of the Yadus. And he told, okay, fine, no, somewhat you people did pranks, and let us just powder this iron piece into finer particles and then throw it in the river or something like that. So that's the thing that was done. And later on, those iron particles, they got settled down in the Prabhasa Kshetra, and there all these particles had grown up as like huge stems of some kind of a tree or something like that, plantation. And when the Yaduvamsha had to be destroyed, so Krishna had organized that everybody will go to this Prabhasa Kshetra, and there all of them become intoxicated, and they uprooted these plants, which were actually, which had the particles of the iron lump, which they had powdered and put, and they uprooted those, trees or plants, whatever it is, and then they started fighting, and the whole Yaduvamsha got destroyed in that way, right? So let's see the purport. The associates of the Lord, who were playing the part of princely descendants of Yadu and Bhoja dynasties, were not ordinary living entities. It is not possible that they could offend any saintly man or sage, nor could the sages, who were all pure devotees of the Lord, be influenced by anger by any of the sporting activities of the princes born in the holy dynasties of Yadu or Bhoja, wherein the Lord himself appeared as a descendant. The cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. The princes were cursed in order that one may know that even the descendants of the Lord, who could never be vanquished by any acts of material nature, were subjected to the reactions of anger by great devotees of the Lord. One should therefore take great care and attention not to commit an offense at the feet of a devotee of the Lord. It's a very important lesson that is mentioned here. We should not offend a devotee of the Lord. No, even the personal family members of Krishna, when they offended the devotees of the Lord, so they had to face the reaction for it, right? So that is the external lesson that we can see from this. And internal lesson is, not lesson, basically internal meaning of it is that Lord wants to wind up the Yaduvamsha, and he just needs a reason. So, and he just creates a reason in this way. And with that, he is teaching some lessons for the external world, that even if you are my personal family members, if you commit offense to devotees, then you are gone. You will be doomed, right? So text 25. Tata katipayair masair vrishni bojandakadayah yayau prabhasam samhrishta rater deva vimohitah. A few months passed, and then, bewildered by Krishna, all the descendants of Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andaka, who were incarnations of demigods, went to Prabhasa while those who were eternal devotees of the Lord did not leave but remained in Dwaraka. So there is two kinds of people that are there in the personal family members of Krishna. So one is the eternal associates of the Lord. So they remained in Dwaraka, and all those Devi Devatas like of this world. In the beginning of 10th canto, we can see that when Krishna were to appear, all the Devi Devatas were summoned, saying that no, you all should go and assist the Supreme Lord in his Leela in the material world. So you all should take birth in the families of the Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andaka dynasties. So all of them took their birth in these various dynasties, and because of being the personal family members of Krishna, they were so powerful and they cannot be destroyed. So, and Krishna made this arrangement. They all go to the Prabhasa Kshetra, and there they fight amongst themselves and die, right? Okay. Text 26. Tatra snatva prutrin devan rishim's chaiva tadambasa tarpayitvat viprebhyo gavo bahuguna daduhu. After arriving there, all of them took bath, and with the water of this place of pilgrimage, they offered their respects to the forefathers, demigods, and great sages, and thus satisfied them. They gave cows to the Brahmanas in royal charity. Purport. Amongst the devotees of the Lord, there are several divisions, mainly Nitya Siddhas and Sadhana Siddhas. So Nitya Siddha devotees never fall down to the region of material atmosphere, even though they sometimes come onto the material plane to execute the mission of the Lord. So these Nitya Siddha devotees, they just come down from the spiritual world, do the business of preaching the message of Krishna consciousness here, and then they are not touched by the material nature. They just go back in the same way. But there is another class of devotees who are called Sadhana Siddhas. Let's try to understand them. The Sadhana Siddha devotees are chosen from the conditioned souls. Out of the Sadhana devotees, there are mixed and pure devotees. The mixed devotees are sometimes enthusiastic about fruitive activities and are habituated to philosophical speculation, right? So there is two kinds of devotees. One is Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha. Nitya Siddha means the residents of spiritual world, and Sadhana Siddha means the residents of material world whose consciousness is contaminated. But then by the process of sadhana means by the process of regulated practice of devotional service, they are trying to purify themselves and they are trying to come to the pure platform. And amongst them, some of them are purified and some of them are still kacha, still not very much purified. So in this way, like two categories are there. And these mixed devotees, they are so much they are sometimes enthusiastic about fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. So that is karma kanda and jnana kanda, right? So these two, this one's sometimes they are attached to them. So that's the contamination that they have. So the pure devotees are free from all these mixtures and are completely absorbed in the service of the Lord, regardless of how and where they are situated. Pure devotees of Lord are not enthusiastic to put aside their service to the Lord in order to go visit holy places of pilgrimage. A great devotee of Lord in modern times, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, has sung like this: to visit holy places of pilgrimage is another bewilderment of mind, because devotional service to the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection, right? So it's like the karma kandya visits of holy place that is mentioned here, not the visit of holy place like Vrindavan, Sridham, Mayapur, and Jagannath Puri. So where a devotee can remember the activities of the Lord. So that is definitely that is appreciated as devotional service. And then the other aspect here, the main thing is our our service, our devotional service to the Lord is more important than like going and taking darshan of the Lord, or going and visiting holy places. So why is it so? Because the Hare Krishna. So we got disconnected. So till where we were reading, we got disconnected. Uh, I'm not able to hear anybody.
Prabhuji, we were talking about Sri Narottama Das Thakur and the pilgrimage places.
Okay, okay.
Actually,
So,
first para purport, first para is completed actually.
okay, okay. Yeah. So, like, Narottam Das Thakur, he sung like this. So, our main relationship with the Lord is the devotional service that we are rendering towards Him. So, that's the main relationship that we have. And we should not disturb, for other ritualistic things like just procedure of visiting some holy places and things like that. So, our connection to the Lord is the devotional service that we are trying to render, right? So, okay. Now, let's read further. For pure devotees of the Lord who are completely satisfied with the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is hardly any necessity to visit the various places of pilgrimage. But those who are not so advanced have the prescribed duties of visiting pilgrimage sites and regularly performing the rituals. The part of the princely order of Edu dynasty who went to Prabhasa performed all duties to be done in a place of pilgrimage and offered their pious actions to their forefathers and others. As a rule, every human being is indebted to God, the demigods, great sages, other living entities, people in general, forefathers, etc. So this is like Deva Rishi Bhutapta Ninam Pitrinam, no Nayam Kinkarana Vinicharajam. So for various contributions received from them. Thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude. The Yadus who went to the Prabhasa pilgrimage site performed their duties by distributing land, gold, and well nourished cows in royal charity as described in the following verse. Okay, so see, Hiranyam Rajatam Sayyam Vasam Ajina Kambalan Yanam Ratnan Iban Kanya Daram Vritti Karim Api. The Brahmanas were not only given well-fed cows in charity, but also gold coins, bedding, clothing, animal skin seats. For sages, they perform austerities. They sit on the animal skin seats, especially the deer skin and the tiger skin and things like that. So the blankets, horses, elephants, girls, and sufficient land for maintenance. So this is how the Brahmanas are given this one. Even when Vamanadev, when he goes for begging charity from Bali Maharaj, so Bali Maharaj says like, no, you want some cows, you want some cottage to live, you want a small land, or you want a good Brahmana girl for marriage. So what all you want? So he asks all these things. So these are all the appropriate things that needs to be offered to the Brahmanas. So all the charities were meant for the Brahmanas who lived, whose lives were devoted entirely for the welfare of society, both spiritually and materially. The Brahmanas were not giving their services, as paid servants, but the society provided them with all necessities. It was arranged for some of the Brahmanas who were in difficulty for marriage to be given girls. The Brahmanas therefore had no economic problem. The Kshatriya kings and rich mercantile men would provide them with all that they needed, and in exchange, the Brahmanas were completely devoted to the elevation of society. That was the way of social cooperation between the different castes. When the Brahmana class or the caste gradually became easygoing, being fed by the society, although they had no Brahmanical qualifications, they degraded themselves into Brahma Bandhus or disqualified Brahmanas. And thus, other members of society also gradually fell down from the social standard of progressive life. So we can see that. So the Brahmana class were maintained nicely by the kings by giving charity. So charity means not to the beggars, no. So these in Kali Yuga it has become like that. The most unworthy people, they receive the charity. So in the in the kingdom of Kshatriyas, like no proper Kshatriyas, they would not allow such beggars to exist only first of all. So first of all, they'll catch everybody and they'll put them in the right place and they will give them an occupation to perform. So they will give them a work to do. if the senses are not controlled, no, then that person is not allowed to be there without doing any work. No, even if he's physically like what is that handicapped or anything like that, appropriate work will be given to them. No, because the work is the way of purification. No, we cannot. Nobody can purify himself by sitting idle and then just getting fed by the charities, public charities. So that is not actually a very proper way of doing things. So the public charity is not to be offered. No, charity is not to be offered anyone else apart from brahmanas. So other people needs to be given work. No, that is the charity that needs to be given to them. So they have to be properly engaged and they have to be paid salaries, no, for their engagement. So the nowadays in Kali Yuga we see the Shudras or the low class people, no, who has no control over the senses, and they take on to the profession of begging. And when they beg, no, what's the point? Like the person is giving charity to them, and what's happening? Like these people take, and then they go and straight away go to the wine shop, or they do so many other wrong activities, taking that money. So actually the ideal thing is that right now, unfortunate situation, we don't have such proper kshatriyas, we don't have such proper job opportunities for all these people. More and more automation, more and more industrialization, and more sophistication in the jobs and things like that. So common people, what they will do, like they're helpless and they don't get any proper job to perform. So even then we have to see that, like, how we can actually give some work, some work to the people who are not purified in their senses. And the people who are purified in their senses, the brahmanas, are they're expected to focus themselves on spiritual development of themselves, and also help the people in general for developing their spiritual qualities. They are not supposed to work anywhere, and because they are not supposed to work, like they are sufficiently given charity. The brahmanas are sufficiently given charity. And now, what has happened in the as the Kali Yuga progresses, the brahmanas have started getting into technical education, and the brahmanas have started taking jobs. Job means shudra. Only shudras will work. Vaishyas will do business, and the kshatriyas will do administration and tax collection, and the brahmanas, they will just simply depend on the Lord and do devotional service. Right? So this is the occupation of these different classes. Only shudra will work. Only shudra will go in front of somebody, and then he will work and get some salary. Right? So that's the this one. So in Kalau Shudra Sambhava, so that's very nicely seen that every single person is trained to get a job. Job is the ultimate thing of everyone. Like and if somebody can go to foreign countries and have a job, that's considered to be very, very amazing. But in Vedic culture, this is the most degraded thing. Somebody who is going and working for a mlecha, so meat eater, and he is selling himself for such a kind of a this one, he'll be ostracized from the society. Now we see, like, foreign return, they are given so much of respect and things like that. In the Vedic society, if somebody does this, they'll be like completely driven out of the society. They will not have any stance in the society actually. So we see that, and especially the brahmanas now, the modern brahmanas, like so they are doing all these things, like they're taking jobs, they're not devoting their time for spiritual upliftment of themselves and the society. So that's the problem, and they become Brahma Bandhus. Brahma Bandhu means they are not brahmanas, but they are related in some way to brahmanas. That's called Brahma Bandhu. Bandhu means a friend of a brahmana. He cannot be called a brahmana. He can be called as a Brahma Bandhu, right? So, and because they are not focusing on their duty of spiritual upliftment, so the whole society, everyone has got this idea: sense gratification is the goal of life, and just hook or crook get some money and make a livelihood and do sense gratification. That's it, right? So that's the whole point. Even yesterday I was like one devotee was sharing with me that if you are praying a particular demigod, and if they are not listening to you, then you try. Why not you try this demigod? Why not you try this vrata, that vrata? So what is the whole point? These demigods, these Devi Devatas should listen to us. So there is no question of we listening to anyone. So like we want to do vrata, We have some desires in mind, and we want this Devi Devatas or Supreme Lord, whoever it is, to listen to our words. So there is no question of we listening to anyone. No, that's the whole outlook of the modern this one. So and they call themselves as religious. No, they call themselves as no, hum bhi puja path karte hain. No, for what? Why are we doing like puja path? So for the purpose that the God should listen to my prayer and God should obey me. No, not that I will obey God. No, God should obey me. So that's the whole point of no puja part of this Kali Yuga. So that's completely demoniac, right? So okay, so let's see. As described in Bhagavad Gita, the caste system is criterion of the Lord and is arranged according to the quality of work rendered to society and not in terms of birthright, as falsely claimed in the present degraded society. Right? Text 28. Annam choru rasam tebhyo dattva bhagavadarpanam go viprartha svaha suraha pranemur murdabihi. Okay. Thereafter, they offered the Brahmanas highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead, and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmanas. Purport. The behavior exhibited by the descendants of Yadu in pilgrimage site of Prabhasa was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. The perfection of human life is attained by following three principles of civilization, that is protection of cows, maintaining the Brahminical culture, and above all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Without becoming a devotee of the Lord, one cannot perfect one's human life, right? The perfection of human life is to be elevated to the spiritual world where there is no birth, no death, no disease, no old age. That is the highest perfectional aim of human life. Without this aim, any amount of material advancement in so-called comforts can only bring the defeat of the human form of life. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas do not accept any foodstuff which is not first offered to the personality of Godhead. Foodstuffs offered to the Lord is accepted by the devotees as the mercy of the Lord. After all, the Lord supplies all kinds of foodstuffs, both to the human beings and to the other animals. A human being must be conscious of the fact that all foodstuffs, namely grains, vegetables, milk, water, etc., the prime necessities of life, are supplied for mankind by the Lord, and such foodstuffs cannot be manufactured by any scientist or materialist in laboratory or factory establishment established by human efforts, right? So the intelligent class of men are called Brahmanas, and those who live, those who have realized the absolute truth in a supreme personal feature are called Vaishnavas. But both of them accept foodstuffs which are the remnants of the sacrifice. No, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Yajna Shishta Shinoshanta Muchante Sarvakil Vishai. Yajna Shishta, that means the remnants of the Yajna. No, when we actually prepare nice foodstuffs, put it on the altar, and then offer the Bhoga offering mantras, and then, no, that's actually a sacrifice that we are doing. And then what remains is the prasad, and that is Muchante Sarvakil Vishai. It actually frees one from all the material ties and all the sins one has. It actually frees no one from all those things. But then Bhunjante Tve Aham Papa. So one who doesn't offer the foodstuffs first in sacrifice, directly cook and directly eat. No concept of offering. So then he's eating only sins. Bhunjante Tve Aham Papa. Ye pachanti Atma Karanat. No, he's just doing pachan for Atma Karanat. So just for sense gratification. So such kind of eating is called sinful, right? So we should not, we should all the devotees should prepare foodstuffs and first offer it in sacrifice to the Lord. Otherwise, we are just simply eating sins, right? So here it's mentioned, sacrifice is ultimately meant to satisfy the Yajna Purusha, Vishnu. In Bhagavad Gita 3:13, it is said that one who accepts foods as the remnants of sacrifice is freed from all sinful reactions, that is Yajna Shishta Shinoshanta, Muchante Sarvakil Vishai. And one who cooks foodstuffs for maintenance of his body takes all kinds of sins. No, Bunjante tvaham papa ye pachanti atma karana, which leads only to suffering. The foodstuffs prepared by Yadus at the Prabhasa pilgrimage site to offer to the bona fide Brahmanas, there were all offered to personality of Godhead Vishnu. So all of them foods prepared and then offered to Vishnu. Then Vishnu Prasad is distributed. Right? The Yadus offered their sincere obeisances by touching their head to the ground. The Yadus or any enlightened family in Vedic culture are trained for attainment of human perfection by total cooperation of service between the different divisions of social order. So this is how the royal order should be. The royal order or the Kshatriyas, they should maintain the Brahmanas in this way. They should distribute Vishnu Prasad, and they should give charity to them, and they should offer their respects and pranams to the Brahmanas, and in turn the Brahmanas will give good directions, according to the scriptures. The word ururasam is also significant here. Hundreds of delicacies can be prepared simply by combination of grains, vegetables, and milk. All such preparations are in the mode of goodness and therefore may be offered to the personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, the Lord accepts only foodstuffs which are within the range of fruits, flowers, leaves, and liquids. No, patram, pushpam, phalam, thoyam, provided they are offered in complete devotional service. Yome bhaktya prayachati, right? So devotional service is the only criterion for a bona fide offering to the Lord. The Lord assures that he positively eats such foodstuffs offered by the devotees. So judging from all sides, the Yadus were perfectly trained, civilized persons, and their being cursed by the Brahmana sages was only by desire of the Lord. The whole incident was a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Right? So, thus in the Bhaktivedanta purport of third canto, third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Lord's Pastimes Out of Vrindavan. Right? So many wonderful lessons in this whole thing, that especially the matter of offering foodstuffs, like in sacrifice is a very important thing, right? Because the connection went off and came back, I couldn't. The previous chat is completely erased. I'm able to see the first. This one is to visit holy places. No, that's 236. Probably that's the starting point you were mentioning. And Shrikant was asked a question: difference between transcendental and eternal. Transcendental means beyond the material modes of nature. Eternal means there is no beginning or end. There is no manufacture date and expiry date. That is called eternal. That which exists in all times is called eternal. And that which is there beyond the three modes of material nature or spiritual, that is called transcendental. So meaning of Sri Krishna, Krishna means all attractive. Krishna means all attractive. So that's one of the name, the principal name of the Supreme Lord. Tulsi Devi importance. Tulsi Devi is a devotee of the Lord. And because Tulsi Devi is a devotee of the Lord, it's when we worship Tulsi Devi, we become we can please the Supreme Lord. Everyone should have Tulsi worship at home. They should water Tulsi every day and then do parikrama for Tulsi every day. This is very important. And then Vrinda Devi is another form of Tulsi. And especially she is there in the Vrindavan. She is the controller of activities in Vrindavan. So she is called Vrinda Devi, and she is the same Tulsi Devi is is Vrinda Devi. And then, okay, so thank you all for joining for this session. We will meet again tomorrow. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.